I'm with Colin Mitchell from the north of Israel. Now, Colin, whereabouts do you live and what is life like there at the moment?
Yeah, we live perhaps on the slopes of Mount Carmel, not too far from the port city of Haifa. And in terms of what life is like, well, this very morning we've had alerts, sirens, and we could hear 20 plus missiles from Iran being shot down and intercepted this morning. Early reports suggest one person was injured as a result. Usually, these are people who didn't get to the shelter in time, hit by shrapnel. So that's what we're hearing this morning. It is stressful. We have two children aged, two beautiful kids who we adopted, are aged 11 and 10. And for them, it is very stressful.
Now, you're in the north of Israel, so are most of the rockets that you face from Hezbollah in Lebanon?
You would think so, but actually, surprisingly, I would say that we get more coming from Iran.
And is there a difference when a rocket comes from Iran rather than Hezbollah in
Oh,
Lebanon?
yes. When we get rockets coming from Iran, and this is how we know the difference, is first of all, we all have apps on our phones called Home Front Command. So that immediately, an alert is triggered on our phone telling us get next to or close to a bomb shelter ASAP. In the next few minutes, you may well have a siren. When that happens, and then it is followed by a siren maybe within 5 minutes, then we know that these are rockets coming from Iran. The reason being, of course, is they're coming from further distance. When Hezbollah fires a rocket, and they did yesterday at us in the late afternoon, you don't get an alert on the phone. There isn't time for that. You have 1 minute to get into your shelter before, as soon as the siren hits. So we know then when we don't get an alert on our phone that the attack is coming from Lebanon.
That must be very difficult, particularly for people who are elderly and for families that have
Yeah.
really young children trying to constantly get them into the shelter. And I guess it's
Yes.
even worse when it's in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And then you think of people with disabilities, for instance. And in fact, if you or people may remember that just a week or so ago, an elderly 70-year-old, both of them couple, were killed in the stairwell of the apartment block they lived in because the husband in that family had a disability and they couldn't get to the bomb shelter in time.
Are people exhausted and very weary about what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the whole nation, to a greater or lesser degree, is traumatized but resilient. And also, I think there is a great understanding of the longing for of the Iranian people to be free from their evil regime. And when we consider that, we think, well, maybe this is worth it if the regime is removed. And that would be an amazing thing. As far as tiredness is concerned, I can speak for myself. I mean, I just released a video called Exhausted, but I don't feel no ways tired from the old gospel song. And I think that's because that's the reality. I am exhausted because sleep is constantly being disturbed. And the one thing we're trying to do is to protect our children's sleep. So they sleep in our daughter's bedroom, which is our bomb shelter. And sometimes they sleep through without being aware that we have entered the room because of an alert or a siren.
Now, a missile caused damage near to where you live. Tell us about that.
Yeah, literally 5 minutes drive, extremely close to our daughter's school. Of course, all schools are shut at the moment. I think it's revealing on a number of levels. First of all, the missile that hit was from Iran. It smashed into a residential home, people's home, on their first floor, and the whole of that side of the building caved in. The good news was that the precious family who lived there were actually in their bomb shelter, so nobody got hurt or injured, but their home is now unlivable, clearly. I went to see it and did my video from there yesterday. And one of the most amazing things was that the people draped large flags of Israel over the gaping holes that were created by the missile. And that gives that message of resilience of no matter what, we shall not be moved. And I would add to that, God brought us here and we're not leaving, we're not going, we're staying. And the enemies of Israel, the sooner they get to understand we're here to stay, the better it will be, I believe. And the other aspect of it, the other message in it, is that Israel's enemies are busy just firing rockets indiscriminately at people's homes and neighborhoods. And they're not interested in targeted attacks against, for instance, our military or other installments. Meanwhile, Israel and the Americans are busy attacking military facilities and nuclear facilities and where they're building rockets and launchers. So Israel is going out of its way not to hit residential buildings, but our enemies just don't care.
Do you see this as a miracle? And are you seeing God's hand in this war as well?
Yes, I mean, miraculously, in spite of some losses that hurt every time we hear about them and we know about them, but the truth is that very often miracles of protection are happening. I mean, we have a large congregation of Jews and Arabs on the top of Mount Carmel who worship the Lord together. Of course, we're not meeting at the moment, but we haven't lost one member of our community. Not one member of our community has been hurt. And we have we have people in the reserves serving and currently fighting in Lebanon. We haven't lost one as yet. We had also many fighting in Gaza too. So that we regard as a real miracle.
So you're seeing a battle there on Mount Carmel, and Mount Carmel is actually famous for another battle, isn't it?
Well, yes, the biblical confrontation between Elijah and the false prophets of Baal, as recorded in 1 Kings chapter 18. But yes, we're in a battle, and we recognize above and beyond the physical battle, the military battles, there is a real spiritual battle going on. And we encourage everyone to keep praying for Jews and Arabs, for their protection, for their salvation.
Now, you're part of the congregation on Mount Carmel. Are you the pastor of the church also as well? How do you encourage people within the church during this time of war?
Right. There are numbers of ways. First of all, I'm part of the leadership ministry team on Mount Carmel. We have a network going on every time there is an attack, and these are very constant. A system kicks into place where we have people checking on the well-being of every member of our congregation in their neighborhoods, in their areas, because Mount Carmel is quite a broad and large area, and we have people who come from Haifa and surrounding areas. So every area has an area communicator to make sure that everyone's okay. That's the first thing. And then, of course, we're having a lot of Zoom meetings and recorded meetings as well. And thirdly, people are getting together. I mean, as much as we're hunkered down most of the time, there comes a point when you say, got to go out, obviously for shopping or to go to a chemist, pharmacy, but also sometimes say, right, we'll meet with some friends in a restaurant somewhere, or we have friends round for a meal and time together. We've been doing that kind of thing because everybody needs it.
Is there a lot of fear in the community? And does this actually give you, as the church, an opportunity to talk to people?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think all of our congregational members are busy talking to people and being there for people, recognizing our calling as the remnant of believers in the land to be light and to reach out both spiritually and practically to the people around us. That's the first thing. Fear, well, yes, but also resilience. It's two sides of one coin. A fear, I mean, you can't help that. I think we have to be real about it. And at the same time, there's a resilience, a determination to live. That's why the people, we always declare, Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live, even while people are trying to kill us, because it's within us. I think it's certainly part of the Jewish DNA is to stand and to say, we will not be moved. We will live, and we're going to live our lives in the middle of it all. sometimes you see fear in other ways. Our children need to get out of our home every so often. We have a park nearby, which really you're not supposed to go to, but it's open to go to it. And the good thing is we take the kids there to play right next to a bomb shelter that is there if we needed to dive into it at any point. So far, on the occasions we've been to the park, we haven't needed to. But the reason I mention it is because we didn't see any other children there.
It's very sad in some ways that you have to have a bomb shelter where children play.
In Israel, that's a reality. I think it's the same as our security. You can't really go into a train station in Israel or get into a bus station without going through security. You think of the West, and that security doesn't exist. And we've got used to a life of security. So it's not too difficult to move from that reality to the reality that says, yeah, in outdoor spaces, and particularly parks, there should be a bomb shelter there.
The Jews are running to bomb shelter all the time here in Israel, and Passover is coming up very, very soon. Do you fear for the Jewish community outside of Israel? We've seen attacks on 4 ambulances in England, and the attack in Manchester. Do you really fear for the Jewish community at this time?
Well, I think there are 2 aspects to that. First of all, Jews are being attacked everywhere. So, Jewish schools, synagogues, Norway, Germany, Holland, I know in Rotterdam and Amsterdam, in Belgium, in France. And I think that, and of course, in England and in the United States as well, everywhere there is a threat. In one sense, that has brought the Jewish people of the diaspora and the Jews of Israel more closely together because we recognize to a degree we're all going through the same thing. And again, I believe Jewish people in diaspora, which is where I came from, are equally resilient in all of this. But there is bound to be fear. And I know from many of my family in the UK that this has created a fear that could bring many more Jewish people back to Israel. The only other thing I would say is that in all of this, and I'm really appreciating the questions, is we're talking about real life. And the problem with most people outside of Israel and the Middle East tuning in to try and find out what's going on is they're getting it from the news and the media. And it becomes 2 things. 1, very slanted against Israel, but 2, also just news items. And people need to remember that this is impacting people's lives in massive ways. And it's affecting men, women, and children across the region.
Should Jews come home to Israel?
Should they come home?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Because the truth is, and this is what we're seeing, the attack in Golders Green on ambulances, for goodness sake, the appalling museum presentation in Margate, Kent, that people can perhaps look up, the murder of 2 Jews going to a synagogue on Yom Kippur in Manchester, just as examples, tell us one thing. And the anti-Semitism, the hate marches, the globalize the Intifada, which is basically calling for the murder of Jewish people on the streets of the UK and elsewhere in the world, it gives us news. And the news is Jewish people, you're not welcome. You're not welcome in the UK or Europe or America. It's clear that it's increasing, and therefore you are under threat now. You are a target. And on that basis alone, and then, of course, they don't want us here. I mean, the Green Party in the UK is so full of hate and anti-Semitism. I understand that they're saying that if you believe in the existence, the right of Israel to exist as a nation, you cannot be a member of the Green Party in the UK. That tells us that maybe it's time for the Jewish people to just get home. They don't want us here. They don't want us to exist here, but they don't want us to exist anywhere. It feels, historically, like the 1930s all over again.
What is your prayer for Israel at this time as they go through this war with Iran? And what's your prayer for the Iranian people as well?
Yeah, well, I know many Iranians too, wonderful people who I've had the privilege to meet, both around the world and even here. We have Iranian who married a Jewish woman when they were in America, and now he's a pastor here, and he's a good friend. And what I would say is, first and foremost, we pray for the freedom and deliverance of the Iranian people from their evil regime. That is a massive prayer for us here. And then we pray for the continued safety and security of Israel, that our armed forces, defense forces, would be both skillful and protected and act with wisdom. We pray also those prayers for our government. We pray for our government. It's not about whether we voted for them or not. We have a biblical mandate to pray for those in authority, not just here in Israel, but every believer has that mandate in their nation. And I'm always encouraging people to pray for people, even if you didn't vote for them, because quite honestly, it is a very challenging time. We're not necessarily too thrilled with our government, but on the other hand, we need to pray for them. And at the same time, praying for the salvation, the continued, because there's been a lot, salvation of both Jews and Arabs throughout the land. God is doing what he wants to do. And I would just encourage believers to cry out, Lord, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven over Israel and the entire Middle East.
What's the website for your church for people who, when better days come, want to come and visit Israel?
Yeah, they could look it up. They could Google Carmel Congregation. That would work for them. And if they want to get in touch with my wife, Helen, and myself, they can look at delightinzion.com and also on YouTube, Clear Views from Mount Carmel.
Well, Colin, thank you very much for sharing today.
You're very welcome, and bless you, Paul.